Good morning, everybody. Day 2 of this 7th Workday event hosted by us here at TietoEVRY. My name is Emily Björnefur, and I am head of the HCM department here at TietoEVRY in Sweden. I really hope that you have brought like a big cup of coffee or tea or whatever you prefer, and that you are ready for day 2. Today we are also going to talk about how the new features of Workday could help you and simplify your everyday work life and also the user experience. Today I have the privilege to hand over to another of my fantastic colleagues. So I will hand over to you, Katrine. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Emily, for the introduction, and greeting to everyone watching. Welcome to the second day of our event from me as well. I am Katrin Kampura, and with my colleague Kristiina Svelebilova, we will be hosting and navigating the event today. Kristiina will join us a bit later, but now I will introduce the agenda for today. So we will start off with Workday Finance from Tiina Karhapää. Then we will continue with expenses, which will be presented by Eeva Melasalmi. After that, we are going to listen to the presentation about Workday Adaptive Planning by, again, Tiina Karhapää. After that, we will listen to Strachan, who will talk about Workday Absence. Then we will get to listen to Eeva Melasalmi again, who will talk about time tracking. And after that, we will have a lunch break, which after we will gather at 1 o'clock to continue listening to Leszek Seifert about talent management. Second to last, we have Workday Recruiting by Strachan again. And last off, we will have Sami Soimio talking about Workday Learning. And I would also like to talk about a few practicalities. So we have a Q&A tab next to the slides, which you are welcome to use. Ask any questions that you might get during the presentation, and we will read them out to the presenters. And if there are any unanswered questions, then we will share the replies after the event. The sessions are all recorded, and we will also share the recordings with you after the event, so you can wait for a separate message about that. The handouts have already been shared with you. You can download them from the shared folder and make your own notes during the presentations. And of course, please do join our HR Insights community. You can do that by going to tietoevry.com/digitalhr, and you will receive event invitations and insightful content that could be useful to you. And of course, keep in mind that we also would ask for your feedback. After each presentation, there's a QR code, and if you don't have a QR code scanner, please already download it so you can go to the form from your phone. We really appreciate your feedback. But now I would like to welcome our first presenter of the day on the stage. So welcome, Tiina. Are you ready to talk about Workday Finance?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So sharing my screen, let me just... So do you see my screen at the moment?
Yes, you're good to go.
Great. Okay, so welcome to hear what's new for Workday Finance in this new release. My name is Tiina Karhapää and I'm a lead functional consultant at TietoEVRY. Just put this one down. Yes. I have 20 plus years of experience in implementing financial systems and helping customers in their finance-related business needs. A safe harbor statement applies today because in my presentation I have functionalities that are not in the production yet. Let's try to move this one here. Workday Finance can cover all your finance-related processes from planning and bookkeeping into the sales and billing and purchases and project and expenses, etc. Here I have marked with red square those areas I will cover today together with Eeva, who is going to present expenses. If you find out today that there are some topics that you would like to hear more about or would like to have a demo of some of the functionalities in finance area, don't hesitate to contact us and we will be happy to arrange demonstrations for you. I will go through today new functionalities related to project functionalities, machine learning for financials, common financial management, banking and settlement, and then there's a bunch of other features which are listed under each topic. But first we go into the projects. Altogether in this new release, there was really quite a lot of new functionalities or change functionalities and enhancements. Here are the highlights from the project roadmap material. I will cover today some topics from this plan for projects, from project billing and also project financials. If we take a look what's coming in the next releases for this area, you see that there's still a lot to come, and enhancements still, for example, for project manager tools. Here are the features. So Workday Assistant is now also available for projects. Then there's a new tool, Project Planner. Then there are key performance indicators for project budgets, multi-level project plans, and then there's enhanced security for project billing. So now Workday Assistant, we got it a couple of releases ago, and now it's wide enough to cover also projects. So you can search your projects with Workday Assistant and then drill down into the project details from there. And this is part of the innovation services. So if you want to use that and take it into use, there's an article about that one, and you need to contact your customer success manager in order to go with it. And then to the project planner. So this is a new tool for planning planning your project phases and project tasks. This is in parallel on top of the already existing project plan tool, so you can either take this into use or not to use if you wish so. This is a screen. Actually, I will go to the system and show that functionality. Here is, by the way, the Workday Assistant. If I open it quickly, you can type down search project and then system by your filters, system searches the relevant project and gives the status and dates and customer information. And you can drill down into the project itself from this link here. But for the project planner, so if you go into your project and take project plan tab, there you can see this new functionality project planner. And the already existing project plan is here beside it. If I think what is different here, so why to use this new project planner? It's maybe the user interface, which is more user-friendly here. For example, you can see both phases and tasks in this one column. You can also filter in this one column with both of the phases and the tasks. Also, you can add from this new button here, you can add phases and tasks for your projects. When you select the line, for example, here I'm selecting this task, I can change the information, I can change the dates. Here's now no save button, so saving of your changes is happening instantly. Also, if you are trying to put some faulty value here, system lets you know immediately. So you see the possible validation errors immediately when you are doing the changes. You can also do mass update for your project data. For example, these dates you can change from the this mass update button. Okay, that was the new project planner, and if you want to take it into the use, there's a couple of settings you need to do in order to get it visible for your users. Then to the key performance indicators for project budgets. So there's a new tool to be seen in your finance tab of the project, where you can quickly analyze the finances of your project status. So there are 3 new cards which are visible. So you can check your labor performance, non-labor performance, meaning other costs than your labor costs, and then the overall project health calculations. It looks like this. So when you go, one moment, please. So when you go over to your financials tab and plan, so you see the these new tables here. So you can follow your project revenue, your costs, your margin and margin percentage against your baseline and forecast, and drill down into the original transaction from this view as well. What do you need to do if you want to use these KPI indicators? So you need to have a budget for your project, of course, and then you need to set up a blank category for the project budget and also plan line attributes for labor and non-labor costs. Then we go over to the multi-level project plans. So based on the customer feedback, Workday has now enhanced project planning so that you can create up to 9 child project plan phases and also add project plan tasks under those child project plan phases. So this gives you a more detailed structure for your project plans, and improving the planning. So there's a new task, manage project plan levels, which I will show you now. I have put it actually this task into my favorites. So manage project plan levels. I search my project and click OK. You can also access these tasks from your project basic page. So you can drill down from there also to this task. Here I have in the left column, I have the uppermost level of my project, and all the phases are here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 phases here. And the new functionality is that under each of these phases, I could create up to 9 child phases. And it happens so that I choose the phase which I want to edit. And then I press this edit button, and here on the child project plan phases, I could add new phases. So I will select the new phase. I would like to add an acceptance phase here. So I just put it and click OK. And now system is giving me a warning. It's just a warning for that. If you are now adding child phases to your projects, you must come to this very same task to do the possible editing. So that's the only warning here. So I will accept that. And now I have this new phase here. And I can also create tasks under this. So I click the child phase and click on edit. And here, child project plan tasks, I could add tasks under my new project phase. Also, you can do the deletion here. If you want to delete something, you could do the deletion here. When you delete on the phase level, it deletes all the tasks as well. So this was a multi-level project plans. What do you need to do to take this into use? So you can just add. Basically, you can just go into the task and begin to create this. There's a notification that you should run what's new report in your tenant, because there are some notes that you need to read through, and maybe some minor settings there. But if you don't want to use this, then you can continue to use the standard project plan. Then to the project billing security. So now there's a possibility for you to control access to your project billing functionalities, so that there's also like a security for project information on billing tasks and reports. So it gives you a greater flexibility to control over who can access and who can do the actions for your billable items. Here is the list of the tasks that this relates to, and for which you can secure access for your users and security groups. This security feature relates also with another new feature, which is customer invoice proposals. I will talk about that a little bit later, but for the project billing, you have this manage project billing transactions, and also you can use for your project billing this new task, customer invoice proposal task. So there's two tools which you can use. What do you need to do to take into use this billing security. You need to set this security up. So you need to go to your project billing functional area and do the security settings there. Here is a list of the other features for project in this release. There's, for example, a possibility now to configure your project budgets in tenant level, so that when you create a new project budget, some of the fields are pre-filled already. So you can use these kind of templates now for creating your projects. Then we go over to the machine learning features for financials. There are 3 new features. There's journal insights for general ledger. Then there's for customer accounts, there's customer payment matching. And for suppliers, there's invoice automation for WorkTag recommendations. And these functionalities are part of innovation services. In last release, we got already some machine learning functionalities for finance, and now we got these 3 new features for general availability and some for spend management for early adopters. And when we look at the future releases, we see that there's still a lot to come. For the machine learning. So it's come here for stay. What you will get is, for example, automation for reconciling and transaction matching, and all these functionalities will speeden up your daily processes in finance functions. Journal insights. So what it is? Machine learning will analyze your posted journal lines in order to find anomalies activity in your postings. Here's a notification that, of course, in order to work, this machine learning needs some history data where to base the recommendations. And if you are just implementing Workday or have used Workday just a little bit of time, to take part of this innovation services includes migration of your financial of your history data, for example, from your legacy system, in order to get this machine learning work into your Workday. How do you use these journal insights? There's a report, journal insights, which you can run. You can give your parameters depending what kind of things you would like to analyze. And when you run the report, you get a result, suggestions of anomalies per your ledger account. And you can drill down to see the journals in question from this button, View Journal Lines. And when you drill down into that report, system gives you the particular lines, tells you what is the current WorkTag in the original posting, and what is the recommended WorkTag based on the history data. What you can do here is you can drill down in the original journal to see details. You can, for example, dismiss anomalies if you think that this recommendation is faulty. You can just dismiss it, it won't no show again. Or you can, for example, create a journal. So you can click the line, create the journal. What this does is that it reverses the original posting and creates a new correct posting as per your instructions. So in addition to innovation services, there are a couple of settings that you need to activate for the machine learning. Then supplier invoice automation for WorkTag recommendation. It's easier to select spend category WorkTags on supplier invoices because the system now checks in your posting, system checks your supplier category. your company and item description. And based on this information, system machine learning will suggest the 5 most suitable work tasks for you. So this is a print screen of the supplier invoice posting task. So here you can see that system has suggested those suitable work tasks in this particular case. The benefit of this is that when you go and post your invoices, it's easier to pick up from this list of 5 and not to have all your work tasks from your system to be listed here. So this will speeden up your supplier invoice posting process. Here also you need to do some activation in your tenant level to activate these machine learning functionalities for this supplier invoice automation. Then the third one is intelligent customer payment matching. This is all about your incoming payments. So what this does is that when you get an incoming payment, machine learning recommends matching from your accounts receivables to match this payment against the open invoices. The tool for this is Report Cash Application Insights. You can schedule this report to be run, for example, each day after you usually get your incoming payments in. So you can schedule this and run that afterwards. This is a screenshot of the report. For example, here we have got a payment from our customer, 2,175 USD. And now system recommends the payments that this incoming payment could be matched with. You can press this review button to go into the details. And here is the matching page itself. You can drill down to the original invoices. You can change the payment amount for this matching. And when you are ready to go, you can select the lines for which you want to match and post the incoming payment to. So this is a very, very handy tool to use. Here also there's some configuration and settings to enable this machine learning for customer payments, but of course you can still use whatever matching process you have in your company currently. Then to the common financial management, and I have picked up one feature there. This is deferred billable project cost accounting. And what this is, so when it comes to your project finances, you want to ensure that you have your revenues and costs in the same period. And before each period end, you need to reconcile your work in progress status to be sure that you have only those costs for which you have a revenue. And for this particular feature, this is an enhancement. So now there's a manual reconciliation, manual automatic postings for your project-related expense reports and supplier invoices. And how does this work? You need to set up first the revenue treatment rules for your supplier invoices and for your expenses in order to system to know that when you have this kind of costs, how should they be treated in your related to your project revenue. And when you have your customer contract, you tell there that, okay, in this contract, I have supplier invoices and I have expenses, and this is the rule I want to use in relation with these kind of transactions. Then when you have your workers posting expense reports, the cost will go into the work in progress account instead of cost account. And when you are doing your customer invoicing for the project, and you are recognizing those costs which you are billing now, system will credit now the work in progress account and put the costs, debit the costs to the correct cost account. So that is the way this automation works. What do you need to do if you want to take this into use? So there's a switch you need to turn on. So you need to enable this functionality, and then you need to configure those rules. Then there are 2 pages of other features in financial accounting. I have listed here, and also added links if they were available when I did this material. Then we go over to the banking and settlement. So there's a new book to bank summary reports which you can use for reconciling your bank related actions. I'm running a little bit out of time, so I go a little bit faster now. So you can reconcile with this report your bank statement lines, your cash journal lines, and also payments waiting for your bank acknowledgement. You can search by book to bank from your system. This new report, you will get all 11 hits. You get this main report, which is book to bank summary report, and the other 10 reports are sub-reports for this one. And this is a screenshot of the report itself. So it's a structured way to see the postings, and you can you do also the matching and posting in this very same view. This feature is automatically available. This is on top of your current reconciliation report. So you can. It's good to look this and choose if you want to use it in the future instead of the current reconciliation. Here are other features for the banking. For example, now you can mass cancel your miscellaneous payments. And the final one is the customer invoice proposal. So this is also automatically available in your system. So you can now run customer invoice proposals. The benefit of this one is that you see and you can change some things before you print the actual invoice. So you can change header information, you can change something on the invoice line itself. And then when you are ready to go, you get to this invoice proposal workspace where you can select the lines, create an invoice. You can look at the invoices here, and you can cancel also the proposal for each line if you wish to do so. But this is a very good enhancement for the billing functionalities. Then there's other features for the customer and supplier accounts. For example, now there are minor changes in your supplier invoice work area. Then I have added roadmap links. It's really good stuff. So if you have time, please go and check those presentations from the links so you can see what's coming for each of these areas in the future. Now I thank you for the time, and I give back to Katrin.
Thank you, Tiina. Now we will welcome Eeva Melasalmi to the stage, and we will hear about Workday expenses. Welcome, Eeva. Can you hear us, and are you there?
Hi, good morning, Katrin. You hopefully are seeing my webcam already.
Yes.
And you also should be seeing my screen by now if I read correctly the live mode. Okay. So let's get forward with the updates for Workday expenses. Should I still go through these practicalities?
Just quickly.
Yeah, maybe just quickly, yes. As Tiina also said for the previous presentation, if you come up with any questions now during the presentation or after the presentation, please don't hesitate to contact us or post the questions directly to the questions and answers module in the session. This is being recorded, and also the slides will be provided to you, or they are already available. Briefly about myself. So again, my name is Eeva Melasalmi. I'm a lead functional consultant with TietoEVRY. I've worked with Workday implementations and post-go live support for over 9 years now. And I have a list of certifications that you can see, but let's mention that the expenses one is the most important one for this presentation. Also, the safe harbor statement applies as there are a lot of the features that are targeted to be released in production only on September 11th. So something might still come up and the features might not be there on that date, but let's hope that everything will be released on time. For expenses, we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to give you a better overview of 4 main topics: the budget data spend authorizations, something about American Express and Visa, the remittance integrations, questionnaires for the expense reports, and the expense report work area. And then there's a long list of minor updates that should be pretty well documented in the presentation in case we are going to run out of time for one reason or another. But let's get forward without further speech. So the first topic on my list for the top or the highlight parts is the budget date field on spend authorization lines. There's a link to the community What's New post, so you can already access that later on to What's Workday. So I'm recording about that and see the documentation there. Briefly, the overview: there's a new field on the spend authorization business processes for the budget date, and it's available on each line on the spend authorization. What this field allows you to do is that you can create a spend authorization now for a budget period that is not open yet. So let's say that I would like to already book myself a spot for the next February-March Workday 2022 Release 1 event, and the next fiscal year isn't open yet for spend authorization. So I could, with this new field, that would enable me to request for that spend already at this time of the ongoing year. This is applicable to Workday Financials customers only. So if there are some of you in the audience who have implemented expenses on the side of core HCM, but without financials, this is something that you will not have. And the field it's available on all existing spend authorization related tasks. Also, there are 2 web services that have been updated to include the new field, and there are 3 Workday delivered reports where the field is already included by default. Object technical level, as I have data background, the technical field name on the business object is called transaction line budget date, and that would be on the abstract budget check line business object. if you are going to start building some business process validations or custom reports, that's what you're going to look for there. So the configuration that needs to be done in order to start using the budget date field is that you need to have a ledger for your company that either has the commitment enabled, or then if you don't want to create commitment ledgers, then you would just tick the budget date field on your company's ledger. So either of those two options, depending on which one suits you better. How this looks like in the spend authorization process, I've made a screenshot so that I don't have to key in all the data to run through the process. But if I would create a spend authorization, you could see this budget date field below the total amount field on each of the spend authorization lines, as I mentioned already. This is more or less how it would look like. For the web services, if you would go into the tenant and look for the spend authorization web service template model, you can see that the budget date field is included there under the spend authorization line replacement data. If you are working with EIB uploads, that's how it would look like if you open up the file in Excel, more or less. So same thing visualized, that you would have the budget date field on the spend authorization line replacement data. For reporting, you have a Workday delivered report for finding spend authorization lines with the budget date information. So here's a screenshot of one report, and you can see that the field is available there. And in the report technical configuration, you can see that the technical name. So as you're probably used to, if you're configuring reports, not all the fields are called the same at the background compared to what the user sees in the UI. Something additional that you should consider if you are planning to enable the budget date and take that into use, if you are going to do that, or if you already are using commitment ledgers, the budget date field will be visible to all the security groups that are involved in the spend authorization process. And once the field is enabled, it cannot be taken away anymore. If for some reason you don't want the budget date field to be filled in by some users, or you have some rules how that needs to be handled, currently the way to make sure that it's being filled correctly is to create custom validations for the spend authorization. This was one of the questions in community related to the what's new post, that can this be hidden? So it might be targeted sometime later, but right now it's there accessible for all the participants in the process. So in summary, yeah, the budget date field is there available to you. Here are the details again of the technical report names and business objects, and brief note that you need to enable the commitment ledger or select the view budget date on the actuals ledger. What happens if you don't do anything? Well, then you don't have the budget date field available on your spend authorization line. Simple as that. Your processes will continue working as they have been so far. But also just to remind once more, if you have taken into use the commitment ledgers, then the budget date field is there pushed to you, and there's no way to take it out. Then to the next topic, Workday is releasing some updates for the outbound remittance files for American Express and Visa integrations. Here are the links to, well, the two separate community what's new posts one for Visa, one for Amex, because they are using slightly separate fields, but many of the features are the same for both of them. So I decided to combine the topics. This has been released thanks to a brainstorm that is linked here. And what it means is that Workday basically now delivers support for American Express Global Remit Layout remittance file format. And Workday is improving the American Express masked invalid integrations and Visa scrubbed integrations by enabling you to send the remittance file with alternative account identifiers instead of sending the full credit card numbers, which makes the transactions a bit more secure. For the configuration part, what has been instructed is that if you are an American Express user, you should actually discuss directly with them in order to decide what field you should send for the account alternate account identifier. Or then equally, if you are using visas, then contact the financial institution that you are working together with in order to define what exactly you should configure on those fields. And here you can see the two different technical names for the templates for different providers. Just a quick picture screenshot of where you would actually go and configure the alternate account identifiers. That would be through your integration system. In the actions menu, you have the integration system, and there the configure integration attributes. So that's the route there to the task. Something to note, if you are taking this feature into use and once you have applied the configuration for the alternate identifiers, if you would import a file where some credit cards wouldn't have this information that you have defined on the template, Workday would display a warning about this on the diagnostic audit file. And also this is very integration specific, so if there are any additional questions, I would turn to your integration consultant primarily. You can see the technical updates here. So again, a screenshot from the system of Workday's integration template catalog. You can see that now the global remittance for American Express is there available. Previously, you needed to use the different templates for each region. So there was one for US and Canada, one for EMEA, but now you can do all that in one global template. And again, if we go and check the integration template details, you can see that the new alternate account identifier field is there already. Some other minor update that has been released on the template is that there is a field that used to be called alternate token, but Workday has renamed that to alternate token for Workday credit card reference, just for to be clear. Then there are some more updates related to the credit cards. So if you would go and create or edit existing corporate credit card billing accounts, you now have a field available for load number, which is something that American Express is using. And that is available on both create and edit UI tasks and also the view corporate credit card billing account report. Continuing with the load number field, so it's also released on the web services. same screenshot combination that I showed you previously for the budget date. So it's there in the template model configuration, and then you would have a separate column for it on the EIB file. The load number field and also a field for the market code, they have been added to the corporate credit card billing account business object. And both of the fields are secured to the public reporting item domains. So if a user has access to the credit card information, they will have access to these fields as well. This is a bit busy screenshot, but I tried to capture all the essentials in one. So if you would go and edit credit cards, some updates that Workday has released is that you would now have these Hoover texts over the last 4 digits of credit card number field, warning or informing that the number might be tokenized. And the next field below that, which used to be called masked or scrubbed credit card number, which is now renamed to masked, scrubbed, or tokenized credit card number. It has the Hoover text over the field saying that please do not enter the actual credit card number here. Also, that last 4 digits of credit card number field, the description has been updated on the business object details that is part of. Some additional considerations regarding the credit card integrations is that Workday plans to retire the secure credit card referred to as PCI environment. And if this is something that you currently are using, there is a page in Workday community that is linked here that you should follow up and make sure that you are aware of all the necessary actions related to retiring that particular environment. And as a summary for that part, you have a whole lot of new fields, but the main thing is that you can now send those alternate identifiers instead of full credit card numbers with American Express and Visa outbound remittance integrations. And just to note that unmasked Amex integrations are not impacted by this change, so only the masked ones. So make sure if you want to take this into use, to go and configure the attributes on the integration templates. That one for the integration part. Now let's go to a bit more functional topic. That would be the questionnaires functionality now being available for expense reports. There is no direct what's new post available to everyone on this particular topic, but I linked another one that is presenting the latest features for questionnaires in general, which would of course then be available with expense reports right now. So if you have been using this questionnaire step configuration already, then you know what I'm talking about. But for those ones who don't, you will see shortly a couple of screenshots how that would look like. But basically, if there would be any additional information that is not possible to record in the standard expense report fields as part of the process, you could now add totally up to your needs customized questionnaire template as part of the process, where you can collect that additional information from the end users. And based on those questionnaire answers that the user provides as part of the process, you can build rules and even apply that to the process logic. So what you need to do in order to start using this, first of all, you need to create a questionnaire. For those ones who don't know, if you already have a questionnaire somewhere and are using it, you cannot change that, the content of that questionnaire any longer. So whenever you need to make a change on a questionnaire that is already in use, you need to recreate that and do it again from start. The task is called create questionnaire or edit questionnaire if you have an unused template. And the important part here is, where's my pointer, the edit questionnaire details button. And when you click this, you can allow the questionnaire to be used for the expense report event business process. Once you have created the questionnaire with whatever content you need there, the next step would be to configure the business process, the expense report event. What you would do is you would add a step there. The type would be complete questionnaire. You can have a step label override to that step, and then by using the configure questionnaire button on the business process configuration, you would link that template you created into the process. How it would look like for the end user, once they submit an expense report, they get this kind of pop-up saying that, hey, Dylan, there's a task for you to complete a questionnaire. So ideally, the user would click directly on the blue button and then continue to the questionnaire. But if they somehow miss that, the questionnaire will wait in their inbox. So this is just a, well, random expense questionnaire as I set up for the demo. So you can add any types of, it can be a radio button, like pick one of the options, or a drop-down list or free text field. What idea is that it will go to the user, whoever it needs to go, and they need to fill the answers in and then send the process forward. The questionnaire responses or the answers, they will be visible in the approve and review tasks of the expense report business process. There's a separate section now there that is visible to the approver in case the person who submitted the expense report also filled in the questionnaire. If you make that as an optional and they don't fill anything, then the approver or reviewer, they won't see this section there. Technically, the field is called questionnaire responses expense report on business object expense report. Something that you should take into account if you are planning to implement questionnaires on your expense report, if you set the step as optional and the person who submits the expense report forgets to take any action on that, the task will stay there in their inbox and it will just, the process will get stuck. So until the person actually goes back to their inbox and then selects skip or fills in the questionnaire. In order to avoid this, you can actually configure the questionnaire step to happen at the same time with the next required business process step in your configuration, but then up to you to decide if that makes sense for your need, but just so that you're aware. So all in all, the questionnaires are now available to expense reports as they are already available for most of the HCM stuff, at least. If you don't want to take this into use, then your expense report event process remains as it is. Then the next big topic would be the expense report work area. Again, there is a link to the community what's new post, so you can also go and check that one if you have time. So what's up with the work area? Workday has delivered this new, basically it's a report view earlier this year in the spring, but after the release one was sent out, it's a report where you can search, filter, and sort all the possible expense reports that you as a reviewer need to review and go through and check if they're okay and approve. Workday advertised that as a dedicated workspace for the back office users who really need to be able to see a lot of the expense report data in one screen. This, as mentioned, this has been released already in April, and there are some updates now with coming with the release 2 in September 11th. One would be a grid view. I'm going to show you how that looks like, and a couple of columns added to the expense report work area report. Additional information that is displayed there. If you have not taken this into use already, what you need to do is there is a business process, a domain called Process Expense Report Work Area that you need to go and edit. Just add the applicable security groups there. You can add organization-based or unconstrained roles there. It's only 2 things that it secures. It's the expense report work area, and there's this search functionality within the work area. The grid view and the new columns that I mentioned, they are automatically available, so there's nothing you need to do in order to take those into use in the report itself. If you are going to enable the expense report work area, or if you have done so already, and especially if you have people reviewing a lot of expense reports really often, you have the possibility to hide the expense report review tasks from their inbox. How you would do that is that you would go to the expense report event business process definition, and from the related actions, there's now something that happened with my arrows here, but you would go to the business process menu, selection of the actions menu, and choose the maintain inbox task display. And basically by doing this, all the expense report review or approve tasks that until now have flown into the end user's inbox, they would be gone from there, and the reviewers would only access those through the expense report work area, which will definitely help them organize their work better. Even though I just said that the new columns on the report are automatically available, yes, but there is one column, the one that is being released now in September, called Reason for Review. It's there already, but it will not bring to you any data unless you have these step entry condition rules configured on your expense report event business process. So as you can see in my screenshot, I have added an entry condition saying that if the total amount of the expense report exceeds 500, whatever the currency, in that case, there should be an action from the manager to approve the expense report with the possibility to send back. And when the manager goes into the expense report work area, you can see a glimpse of the process. So the new column Reason for Review, this will show the entry condition rule if it has been met in the process, and then basically explaining that why the approval has been triggered for the person. Here is an overview of the expense report work area. So in practice, it's a big report. that brings together all those expense reports that are awaiting action from the reviewer currently. And it works in the same way as all the other advanced reports, is that you can configure the columns, hide the ones that you don't need, rearrange them. You can filter them and you can sort them. And in addition to the basic report filtering and sorting functionalities, you have this search button that you maybe spotted in the previous picture that gives you some extra options to filter out your results in the report. If some of these search and filtering options are beneficial to you, you can, as for the other reports as well, you can save your filters for later usage. Something to point out if you are planning to roll out this functionality, and also any other new interesting stuff, is that you have this My Shortcuts that has become available recently. So you can instruct your workers to add the expense report work area into their own shortcuts if they are using that on a frequent basis. Let's just actually jump into the tenant, and I will quickly switch to Tiina to show you how that expense report work area looks like in the tenant. Apologies, now I had the wrong user, and let's go back to the presentation. Well, you are able to see the same things on the slide. So from the expense report work area, from the report, you have this review action button there available. And when you click on the review button, it will take you to the expense report itself, which now is displayed by default in this grid view. That gives you a pretty nice overview of, like a summary overview of the expense report line details. You could still switch to the more traditional list detail view. There's a small toggle icon there on the top right corner, and you can switch between the views. And you could approve the expense report here from the approve button, and then go back to the remaining ones awaiting there in your work area. As you can see, this is, from the user interface perspective, pretty big a change. So if you have training materials for expenses, you probably end up updating those if you take this feature into use. And then, yeah, just mentioning that this is a long list of all the supported tasks there in the work area, and this is something that Workday is working on improving already. Some thing that I'm at least expecting to be released at some point is that you are able to approve multiple different expense reports at once. It's something that has been asked at least by a couple of my customers already years and years back, that why can't we pick multiple different expense reports and then approve them at the same time, but not there yet, hopefully coming. This is just a summary of the functionality and what you needed to configure in order to use this. So then we have some time left and a long list of other features. So let's quickly take a look at them, but you should find all the essentials here in the presentation. So there is the possibility to generate reports on expense report lines for journals. Something that has been added on the journal lines business object. Expense report lines are there available automatically. So just start using the new field in your calc fields or custom reports. No new domains, just that it's now available there on that new business object. Expense reporting has become available so that you can create and submit expense reports on behalf of students. Previously, you could only submit expense reports for students by using the create expense report for non-worker. This is actually a big topic in community, but based on my background check, there wasn't any academic institutions or people joining from universities or so. So that's why I downgraded the topic as the minor one. But just so you're aware that it's possible to create the expense report directly for student objects. Also, then an update related to the global search. So the basic search field that you have in when you log into Workday, that's there on top. You are now able to access credit card transaction files based on their name in the expenses search results category. Previously, if you knew that you have a transaction file with a certain name and you search for it, you needed to go to the all of Workday search category, which probably gave you way too much stuff there. And then it was slower to find the particular object that you were looking for. But right now you are able to find the credit card transaction files based on their name in the expenses search category. Tiina already mentioned about the multi-level project plans. What it means from expenses perspective, if you are using Workday projects, it means that you are able to add the Workday projects as additional work tags in your expense reports. Even though this multi-level feature was rolled out in the projects, you can still, within other areas like expenses, you can only transact against the top level project phases. So if you are creating lower level project phases, you won't be seeing them in the list of selectable values for project phases. Related to project tasks, you can create tasks on any level and they will be accessible as the additional work tag in your expense reports. Then about non-recoverable tax accounting. So Workday now supports allocation of non-recoverable tax amounts to transaction tax accounts for expense reports. Previously, if you had a non-recoverable expense taxes on expense items, they only went to the spend account. What you need to do in order to start using this is that you need to create a tax recoverability which does not allocate the non-recoverable taxes, and then you need to include that in your account posting rules for the transaction tax rule set. This was also an improvement based on a brainstorm that is linked here. Just so that you know, it's now available to record the non-recoverable taxes directly to the transaction tax account. Then still something about the integrations. for central travel cards, if you are using those, there are a couple of integration templates that have been updated with new field called credit card category. Basically, there are two values in there available. It's either central travel card or worker credit card. And an update to the expense participant as a worker report field. So previously on the business object expense participant, that you are very likely to add on expense items like dinners or entertainment or whatever, where you need to tell like who you were with there. You could not, if I create an expense report and I needed to tell that, hey, I had my colleague there with me in that lunch, in addition to the potential customer, then the worker object was not directly available from the expense participant object, but now it is. Now you can refer directly to the worker if you need to use that in reporting or calc fields or condition rules. Another field level update to the expense payee object. There is now a field available called expense payee has active credit card. Something that is automatically available there. Just a new field that you can use if that comes handy. And then what has been released also in release 1 plus features sometime earlier in the spring is that you have new fields for rates used and accumulator used for expense items. Basically the ones that you have configured with graduated amount or amount-based rate table. So it's a bit more informatic to the end user to say that, hey, okay, I've expensed this and that many 100 or 1,000 kilometers for mileage, and then these are the ranges that are being used as the basis for the amount that I get back. And then just quickly mentioning for expenses, there are 48 brainstorms currently considered as a roadmap candidate. So Workday is really doing a lot in order to develop the functionalities. Something that I want to highlight, but it was mentioned in release 1 as well, that I think many of us is looking for the Google Maps integration for the expense report mileage to come. It's still not there yet, but a lot of votes and on the roadmap. You had the actual roadmap presentation here, but then just a couple of highlights. What Workday is focusing on for the expenses functionality is to continue improving the user experience, making it as quick as possible, as accurate as possible when you are creating and submitting expenses. Also, there are some cool collaboration features expected for the expense reviewers somewhere in the future. And also Workday is investing on developing the machine learning in order for us to, or the users to get rid of the kind of unnecessary expense report approvals. So that's the system would tell you like which ones are the expenses that you need to pay attention to and what you can just let go and be approved automatically. Reminder that please send us feedback, and also if you have any more questions, don't hesitate to contact us. And I guess that I will then hand back to you, Katrin.
Thank you, Eeva, for overview about expenses. Now we will continue with Workday Adaptive Planning, and we will welcome back Tiina Karhapää to present this. So welcome back, Tiina.
Thank you, Katrin. One moment, please.
Yes, we can see your screen.
See your screen. Okay, then we are good to go. So welcome to hear what's new for adaptive planning in this new release. Some practicalities. So put your questions to the questions area, Q&A area, and we will answer so many questions as we can when after the presentation. My name is Tiina Karhapää and I'm lead functional consultant here at TietoEVRY. Safe harbor statement applies because my presentation includes functionalities that are not yet in the production. When you are looking at the adaptive focus areas for coming year related to user experience and modeling, you will be seeing alignment of these planning functionalities with other Workday. In workforce planning, you will see that there will be more interaction with HCM. And now in this new release, you will be able to create also job requisitions from adaptive planning directly into the HCM area. There will be machine learning enhancements. There will be more enhancements related to intelligent planning to help you do the demand planning functionalities. And also there will be further development to the integration area and also the security. I will go through today some adaptive planning user experience, so changes in the user interface. Then there also related to user interface and security, there's a level ownership view changes. Then some modeling changes, new workforce planning actions, and there's a plenty of new features as well. But we start with the adaptive planning user experience. So there's a new overviews for the sheets and the reports. Then there are some enhancements in Matrix Report Viewer and also in Cell Explorer. But first for the sheets. So there's a new look to that. So I will go into the system and show the new view. So when I'm going to the sheets, you can see that there's in the same page, you can see now both level assigned sheets and user assigned sheets, and you can toggle between these two here. There's a search functionality now, so I can search for example, with a name, my revenue sheets will show when I search with that name. If I go and check the user assigned sheet, you see that here's now the workflow status that is added here. So you can drill down into your workflow status directly from these patterns and approve or reject or submit the workflows further. Of course, as well, you have more actions button here now added. So you can update your workflow status here. There's also a button so you can suppress the column here if you wish to. So that kind of enhancement for the Sheets view. Then to the Cell Explorer. So this page is rearranged. So the cell info, which used to be on the right side, it's not now on the left, and the details screen is now on the right side of the screen. Also, if your cell info, cell data is coming from an external system, or so you have a drill down button here so that you can drill down to see those. Also, if the cell is visible on other sheets, you have a drill down option here where you can go into. Also good to note that now this suppress rows if all zeros are blank. This is now activated as default. Then same as for sheets, now the report overview has changed also. So this is an old view, which what we currently have in the system, but it will change to look like a sheets view. So they are more closing to each other. So here also you can search by the name. System goes automatically to the favorites folder first. And there's also like a new all folder, which you can use to search and browse all your reports. Here's also a new add new button. From here, you can create a new report, add a new folder, or upload, for example, a file from your sources. So this kind of user interface changes for reporting. Then for the matrix reports, same here. So the look of the matrix report, it is changed, but good to note that this is something that if you want to take the new look into use, you need to put a ticket to adaptive planning support. But this is an old view and this is a new view. So what has been changed? The tool line has been improved. There's a new save button. You can do just save or then also save as, and also you can share via that button. Here's also like a new separate share button where you can share the report, and then there's a download button, download as Excel or as PDF. You can also refresh directly here in the matrix report, so you don't need to go back to the overview to do that. It's refresh it right in here. And in the right side, you see this new column. So there's information about the report handy. Yeah, it's also one consideration here that some of the existing functionalities in matrix reports are temporarily unavailable if you take this new user interface into use. But these functionalities will come back in the next release. Another change in the user interface. So we are all used to use assumptions, but from now on, when you go into the menu, you see that label has been changed. It will be, instead of assumptions, it says here, user assigned sheets. So all of these user experience changes are automatically available for you, except this matrix reports. So you need to submit a ticket for adaptive planning support in order to get that one. Then to the level owners on the levels page. So this is a print screen of the modeling on the levels, and what you can see here, the level ownership column is now removed from here and also removed from the detail screen. It's probably considered, level ownership is probably considered more to be security topic. So it's better to have this information in the administration side rather than here in the modeling. That is probably the reason for this change. You can continue to look the level ownership details from administration, in the users, and in the association. So information still remains there as usual. And logical changes also that because the level ownership is removed from the modeling, it's also removed from the spreadsheets that you use to import level structures. Then for the simplified modeling changes. So now you are able to set any dimension column in your sheets required. And this is a good enhancement because now you can be ensure that all your critical data is always entered into the sheets. And if you have this column as a mandatory, then and if you don't have a data there, the line will be shown as red, and it's an error situation there. For the erasing data, there's an enhancement that now, in addition to erase actuals data, you can erase also plan data. This is a new erase data user interface, so you can select any version, any non-virtual version, and then you can choose a count on a sheet. You can choose time period. You can choose all levels or select a particular level where you wanna erase the data. Then we have calculated accounts for planning. So now every time you add a formula to your accounts, you get a prompt where you are asked either to preserve or replace the existing data. So this is also a good new feature. This is a print screen of the functionality. So when you are doing something for your master formulas, you get this pop-up window asking whether you want to preserve or replace. So now you can preserve your historical version data if you wish to do so when you are changing your formulas. Some other features for modeling, for example, when you are now changing account or level view, your preparation are saved automatically. There's also this hide roll-up totals to improve sheet performance. This setting is activated by default. You can take the tick away, but hiding the roll-up totals makes a difference for your sheet performance, and that's why it has been now activated as default. And as a summary, all these simplified modeling changes are available automatically for you in September. Then for the workforce planning actions. In last release, we got a new functionality that you can create directly from your workforce planning. You can create positions into HCM by publishing your workforce plan. Now there's an enhancement for that functionality that you can create actually now many positions from one line. It used to be so that one line, one position, but now there's an enhancement that you can use Org Studio to create many positions from one line. And this is very handy if you need to create several positions at one go. So this is really improvement for that one. And reminder, it works so that you do planning in adaptive and then do the publish functionality, and then tasks moves into the HCM side for creating the positions. It goes usually to somebody's inbox where a team or a person can still check what to create in HCM side. And now new functionality. So now in addition to create positions, you are also able to create job requisitions from workforce planning into HCM. Here is just a print screen of the action. So when you are doing publishing task in adaptive side, you get a pop-up window where system is asking what do you want to create or publish, and you also get a line-by-line view of the requisitions that are to be created, as well as positions. And here you can still choose what you want to publish and what not. So there are some actions really that need to be done related to activating these links. So and we are ready to help you with these actions if you are planning to do those. So please contact us. Then for the other features, there are plenty of other features. I have listed in 3 pages of those. For example, you have an intelligent planning site. You have these prediction versions for your demand forecasting. So this is also machine learning functionality that requires a bit of your historical data, but that can be done if you wish to use this kind of prediction versions in your planning. So your historical data can be uploaded into the adaptive, and then we can start to use these predictions for demands. There's also changes, enhancements for your Office Connect ad hoc analysis, for example. And if you are using Salesforce integration, so there's now changes into that one, smaller changes into that one as well. Then here's a link to roadmap. It's a very good presentation which you can find in this roadmap. So if you have time, please go and check that material. I will end my presentation with the roadmap topics for planning. And when looking for the future enhancement, there will be, for example, new features for the machine learning still, workforce planning, actions, and also adaptive user interface, more unified look with the other Workday functionalities. Okay, with these words, I thank you for the time, and I will answer the questions. If we don't have time now, we will answer additional questions afterwards by email. So I'm giving back to you, Katrin. Thank you.
Thank you. There is actually one question. One person has said that they actually don't have adaptive planning yet. And maybe it's a question to Erik, who presented yesterday, but the question is that is the security in adaptive planning equivalent to prod, P-R-O-D, or can we also build other security?
You mean production? Yes, usually it is. Let me just. There are various possibilities and options also to build the security. So you can have single sign-on from to use for example Azure or some other signing method that you have and use that kind of security, or you can log on separately to adaptive. And inside of the adaptive, you may have a different approaches to build your security in there. So I wouldn't say that it's one-to-one connection, but it's case by case. So we can build the security as per your preferences.
Thank you, Tiina. Right. Now, before we go on to the next presentation, we have an announcement. Unfortunately, we need to cancel time tracking presentation that was supposed to happen after the upcoming session, because Eeva was not able to finish all demos and the presentation due to not feeling well yesterday. And now after the first session, she is feeling worse. So we sincerely apologize. And we will send the recording of the time tracking session to you as soon as Eeva is feeling better to record. So we will send the video for you afterwards. But now we will continue with Strachan, who will present to us the latest updates about absence. So Ian, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Katja.
Hi. We are hearing you from a distance a little bit.
Oh, I think well, unfortunately, it's as good as it gets. I'm using these things, so hopefully that'll improve during the session. But let's see. As they say, it is what it is. I'll try to speak up.
Thank you, but we hear you, so you're good to present now.
All right, so let me just share my screen, and do let me know if you can see that. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, it's up.
And hopefully now you can see the tenant.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to Workday 2021R2 session for absence management. No doubt you've heard this a few times, so just quickly, in case you've just joined the session right now, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A functionality to post those. If we have time at the end, we'll go through those. We've got quite a bit to get through actually in just an hour, so I'll try to skip along as quickly as possible and as loudly as possible. But yeah, if we have a time at the end, otherwise we'll respond to those questions by email. We're recording the session so that you can access that after the event, and indeed you can download the presentations even right now in case you want to make sort of notes against those. And lastly, I would just say that if you haven't joined our Digital HR Insights community, it's a great way to interface with other professionals. We don't spam, we just provide information about events and great content to assist with your transformation journey. So here's me. I'm a lead functional consultant here at TietoEVRY. I've been in the ecosystem for over 7 years, initially as a customer and then as a consultant. And I'm certified in of course, HCM Core, but also absence, advanced reporting, and indeed launch. So another bit of boring stuff here, our safe harbour statement. Again, you've no doubt seen this, but it's worth mentioning because we are making forward-looking statements. So it's important not to make any decisions based on items discussed here, especially those with a financial impact, until of course these features go live in Workday. So for our agenda, we'll cover the main 2021R2 features, some additional features for 2021R2, and then our roadmap. I don't think we'll have any time, honestly, to get into the Workday 2021R1 Plus features, and to be fair, there wasn't so much there to talk about anyway. So our main features, firstly, absence occurrences. Again, it's a feature that you may already be using, has been around for a couple of releases, but we have an enhancement now that we can now use absence occurrences in our business process step condition rules. Obviously, this is quite a welcome addition because previously we were reporting on absence occurrences, and if you're using those already, you'll know what I mean. But if not, just to summarise, if you will, absence occurrences are a way of grouping time offs and leaves together so that we can track, for instance, as a good example, instances of sickness, which you may have spread over multiple different time off types or leave types or absence tables and so on. And we can group those together and track and report on those. And now we can use that information to determine which steps in business processes fire off and which do not. So yeah, again, it's something we've used for a while, but now that's available in those steps. And again, for some countries, this is super helpful because we have regulatory requirements, so we can reduce the workload on our managers and on our approvers and so forth. And it also helps to minimise the risk of approving paid absences that actually should be unpaid, or in some instances not even allowed at all. So it's helping us be more efficient, but it's also reducing our risks and possible errors. So on to the configuration. This feature assumes you're already using absence occurrences, and I'm not going to get into how to set that up. That's from a prior release. And again, if you have difficulty with that, do reach out to us and we can guide you through that, or just have a conversation. But anyway, assuming you've got absence occurrences in use, then you need to build your calculated fields to use in your condition rules for the steps in our business processes, and be that approval steps or to-dos or whatever, that then trigger based on how many matched occurrence events a worker has, or indeed the number of units they have in those matched occurrence events. So as far as mentioned, you have to have absence occurrences in use, of course, but if you don't, then you'll need to get those into use, but then and then once you bring absence occurrences into use, that's not going to configure your existing events either. You need to sort of convert those, and again, that's part of information delivered for a prior release. So once you've done that, you've got your absences in use, and your time off events and leaves have been converted into absence occurrences. Then obviously we need to create account fields and other sets of business processes. And if you don't, no major bad things will happen. You simply won't be able to use those absence occurrence events in your business process validations. Next page. So in summary, we can now validate use our absence occurrences to validate steps in BPs. We also have a new business object and 3 new report fields, and they were detailed in prior slides. You've got to, of course, be using absence occurrences, as I said, and then you create your calcs and condition rules and use those in your BP steps. And again, nothing. If you do nothing, then nothing will happen. Nothing will change. So next up is absence thresholds. This is one of the more highly anticipated features and something we've been building workarounds for in absence for some considerable time. So we can now define a limit for an individual day on how many workers can be absent, or how many units of time can be used as absence for that particular day. And we can be really specific on particular job profiles or job classifications, supervisory organisations, and indeed which time offs, including absence tables and leaves. And we can specify this for particular date ranges, so we can have real flexibility in our design. So just to continue with the overview of the feature, here we can see how this looks both in our desktop but also on mobile. So here we can see how this views in desktop. I'm looking at somebody's calendar here. We have a button for to view thresholds, and if we do on a particular date, we can see the threshold information based on the configuration that we've added. In this instance, I've built that we're only allowed to have 3 workers absent on a particular date, and in fact, it shows us here that we do indeed already have that on what the threshold is called. So obviously we need to sort of click into the day and see that. And on mobile, slightly different, of course. If there's a date with some threshold information in it, you get this sort of small blue dot. And again, if the user clicks into that, they get sort of further information here, explaining to them where we are in the threshold, but also which threshold we're looking at. And the purpose, of course, is to, on mobile, to sort of maximise the real estate we've got available for the actual calendars. So as you see, if you click into it, the sort of next month disappears and we get this further information. So within any review time off steps you have in your business processes, the reviewer can also, we can also make available this excuse me, we can also make available this threshold information so that we can enable the reviewer to make an informed decision based on our design decisions around what we allow on individual dates. So in their inbox, when they look at their review absence, they can see this additional threshold information. It tells them which threshold is applicable for that user, for that population, that date. It tells them, you know, how many available days there are, or units, depending on which way you've configured. And it also tells here whether or not that's based on headcount or units. And we have this nice indicator here, which is green to say all okay, and yellow if that threshold has already been met. Got a lot of information here, but as this is available to take away, I thought it might be helpful if I list all this here for you. So as you can see, we've got a lot of new items coming for this feature. Plenty of options in configuring around it, including reporting, etc., because we've got some new domains that we need to configure, but also a lot of new business objects, tasks relevant to the new feature, of course, with data sources and reports, and a lot of new report fields, and indeed some additional web services if we need to take action upon thresholds en masse. So as far as configuration is concerned, I touched on these 2 new domains a moment ago. Firstly, we need to add security groups to the 2 new security policies. And then in our Edit Tenant Setup HCM, if we scroll down to the time off threshold section, we need to choose our display option. So we can decide whether or not to display just the name, or the numbers relevant, or as percentages even. And then we can also, I don't know if you can see this here, but there's I don't know how zoomed in this is for you guys, but underneath this drop down, there's another option here, which is display when threshold percentage greater than or equal to. And this setting just determines, for instance, if we said our threshold would be 10 workers on a particular date, if we set this to 50%, then the threshold information will only show once we've already got 5 workers on some kind of absence on that particular date. So we can sort of control our display setting like that. And then we need to choose which settings we want to use for our actual absence threshold. It's called a threshold schedule, including which population we want to include. So in here I've picked up a couple of supervisory organisations. If we want to narrow it down to only relevant job profiles or job classifications, and in our settings here we can choose whether or not we have a hard stop error, a critical error, or just an alert, just a warning. And then we can choose which time off or absence tables we want to sort of trigger that alert or that warning, and also which time offs, absence tables or leaves build up the count towards the threshold. So in my example just now, if I'd said 10 workers, then these are the time offs and leaves and absence tables that would count towards that number 10. And this is the only time off that I've chosen that would trigger that alert or that error if somebody tried to take this particular time off on a date where we hit that number 10 already. And then down here, oh, sorry, excuse me. Down here, we can determine if we want the same threshold for every particular day of the week, or we want different numbers on different days, or indeed have no threshold limit at all on any particular days. And we can override for any specific dates again. So we might say on a particular date we don't want any threshold, or on a different number. So let's take a look at a schedule that I've already configured in the tenant. Just jump into the tenant now. So if I go into the tenant and search for edit, we can go and pick up one that I've already configured for our demonstration today. So again, here we can see those options that I was talking about a moment ago. We can name our threshold and have a different display name if we prefer as well. We can choose which date range the threshold will apply to. So in my instance, I've chosen all of July and August, and actually the first day of September too. And again, we can pick up which supervised organisations we want to apply this to. I haven't chosen any job profiles, but I can go and do that, or job classifications. And again, whether or not we want just a warning or a hard stop error. And again, and here is the time off that I've selected to trigger that warning or error. I've only picked one, but of course we could pick multiples. And here are all of the absence types, including leaves as well, that will build up towards our threshold limit. And again, in here, I've just added 3 days, 3 workers, because I've chosen up here head count rather than units. So 3 workers for each day, and I've added an override on the 31st of August to say no threshold limit. And sort of for admin purposes, we can put a comment here if we wish. So let's take a look at this in action. So if I navigate to one of our included supervisory organisations here, Global Support UK and Ireland, and pick up our members, we have a member here called Emma. Let's go and enter some absence for Emma. So firstly, for your information, well, let's get into our calendar. Sorry, first let's try to get there first, and we can have a look. So firstly, if we notice on the view, okay, let me try that again. I'll go back and proxy as Emma. I'm still in as Logan. And we'll do that, go into her calendar again now. And request some absence. So again, if I view Teams, if you're using Team Absence Calendar, you'll know what this looks like. So this is exactly what that is. And on here we can see that we've got some people with existing absences already. If I go and view absence thresholds, I can see that on the 27th we've already got 3 workers, 3 out of 3, so that's already used up. And on the other days I don't have that. So Emma can quickly see which days are appropriate for her to select and which are not. If she were to go in and try to take a day on the 27th of the time off or any of the time offs that we've selected to trigger our alerts in my particular demonstration setup, it's just this unpaid time off. Here we can see she's on the 27th, unpaid, 1 day. If we submit, we can see we immediately get an error. Oh, wrong day, sorry. Let me go back. That's, well, anyway, rather than waste your time, but basically when Emma submits, she will get an error literally popping up telling her that we have already reached our limit for that threshold and that she should choose another day. Again, if I were to come into any of these days where there's not a threshold limit already showing, then that of course we'll just submit through as usual. So then just to, if I just quickly stop the proxy here. If we search for absence threshold, I just wanted to show you how this looks. This one of these new reports, because if we look for all absence threshold schedules, one thing to note here is that we have an effective as of date here, but you'll notice it's not mandatory. I can just click into it and I won't get any results. But if I come into here and say, okay, let's look at this as of August 28th, pick up a date, then I will get results. And Workday are aware of this, so that may get the little mandatory mark soon, but just to be aware. So in here, in this excuse me, come back to the tenant. So in this report here of all absence thresholds, we can see the ones that have been configured. We can also see when they're going to start and end, which organisations are affected and our configuration choices. We can also see, quite critically, which types of time off or absence table will trigger our alert or our warning, and which ones make up the count towards our threshold. And of course, then we can also see the rest of our choices here, so we can see which days have got which thresholds, and also we can see if there's any overrides built into those. Let's just go back. I think if we do one last report there for you, that shows us them all, but if we view absence threshold, we can pick up any particular one and go in to see the configuration that we were looking at a moment ago. And of course, from here, from our related actions, we can go and edit as you'd expect. And then there's a threshold results report, but again, you need to have some results there. But again, just to show you that we have this report now, and we need to pick up which organisations we're interested in, and a date range. So even if I picked up just this week, we can see the results that are already in the system. So we can see on individual days which thresholds apply and for which organisations. We can see which time off types or absence tables will trigger our alert or our warning, which ones build up our threshold count, whether that's head count or units, and what it is, and again on individual days. So we can also see, for instance, for this particular day, 23rd, we have 2 users already have taken approved time offs that are relevant to our threshold. Let me get back to our considerations, excuse me. So some additional considerations here, and again I mentioned this a couple of times. Lead types can count towards your threshold, but they won't trigger the validation alert. And this is simply because leaves often need to happen no matter what else is going on. So it doesn't matter often if you've got a lot of people off on a particular date. If somebody's going to be on maternity leave, they're going to be on maternity leave. But it does allow the system, of course, to validate those time off requests for that date and include anybody who's actually on leave in those included leave types. So you know, our requests get the full absence situation if people are requesting time off. So a summary, we can track and validate thresholds for absences for specific days for chosen organisations. We have 3 new reports to support the feature. As far as what do we need to do, we need to enable our domains and add security groups there. We need to choose our display options in Edit Tenant Setup, and then we need to configure our threshold schedules according to our choices. Next up, this is something that actually relates to absence and time tracking. So I didn't get into this too deeply, but we will be taking a look at it. So we have a new hub. I'll focus on the absence functionality here, of course. But yeah, so we have this new hub, time and scheduling hub for frontline managers. And in here, currently for absence, we have our time loss pending approval and access to our team absence calendar. And again, that's in its own, split up into its own tabs here. The other 2 are for time tracking. As far as configuration is concerned, we need to add our security groups to a couple of domains here, Manager Time and Scheduling Manager Hub. That'll allow users to run the hub to get in to see it. And then set up tenant hub that allows them to run the hub and configure the hub. So how do we do that? Well, then if you've got the relevant security configuration, run the maintain hubs, click on the configure button, and then choose which sections you want to include there, what cards and so forth you want to include. So let's have a look at that in the tenant as well. So I'm logged in as Logan again, our super Uber user, or HR admin if you prefer. If I search for maintain hubs, we see the report. I can click on the time and scheduling hub, I can click into configure and choose announcements, and we've seen those with Workday's homepage and in other areas, so I won't get into that. We can add suggested links and choose which groups, which parts of the population will see those. There's a couple in here already. Perhaps I might want to go and add, there's a dashboard here and a task. Maybe I want to add an external one of our quick links. So, for example, I might want to see Google if I can type. And I can add that in there, say OK. And as far as content is concerned, we can see in here the various cards and content that you can go and choose and just add as you see fit. Of course, there's all security behind that based on, a lot of this is on time tracking, but so long as you've got access as far as absence is concerned to team absence calendar, you can get in and see that accordingly. So I'll just say OK on this, noting that I've now added a link into Google. So let's just briefly have a quick look at how that is. If we go and find the hub and run it, we can see that we've got our sort of front page here. Again, as far as Workday is concerned, absence is concerned, we're only really interested in this time loss pending approval. And again, for Logan, we don't have any, but those would appear there. And if we go down to our time and absence calendar, again, we can just like running, team absence calendar, just like running it separately, we can run it from here. The difference being that you'll notice that we're now seeing the team absence calendar, but we haven't gone away from this hub. So we can still go and choose to go back to different areas. So again, it's just about improving efficiency for those frontline guys, so they can get access to the time tracking and absence information in one place. If I move on to our additional considerations, again, we need to make sure, of course, that we've added our users to our time and absence configurations for all the relevant sort of features there that we want. What we've spoken about today here is just gaining access to the hub and being able to configure that. But of course, if people can't see a particular time off type, then they're not going to see that there anyway. So, and again, that's similar bit of information really about the team absence calendar. There's a separate piece of configuration for team absence calendar that's been with us for some time, so I won't go into it. But again, that needs to be configured appropriately. So yeah, if you set this up to demonstrate or to test it and you're not seeing what you expect, first step is go and check your absence setup. So in summary, we have a new hub. We need to set up security appropriately, and if we don't, the hub simply will not be available. So next up is a bit of a technical item, third-party calendar integration, but I'll try to get through it as painlessly as possible. We can now configure an integration between Workday and Outlook or Google Calendar to show approved time off events. So workers can see their own, and managers can see, of course, their own, but also those approved events for their workers directly in their Google or Outlook calendar. Most users obviously manage their calendars outside of Workday. So this is a really helpful feature, meaning that workers no longer need to enter time off in Workday and then enter it separately in their calendar, which of course opens up the possibility of error, but also is not very efficient. So this is quite a nice feature. As far as an overview, obviously it's an integration. So this is largely configured by your integration consultants and your IT resource. However, absence admins and consultants are expected to sort of understand the setup from the non-IT side. So it's important that we understand this. We need to be able to define which absences to include, because that's a choice. We should choose who should be able to see time offs in their Outlook or Google Calendar. And if we want to limit this to certain supervised organisations or other organisations, and if we want any custom text to be sent with those when those are integrated out, and if so, of course, what that should be.
We can see your screen and your picture, but for some reason we can't hear you. You are still muted.
Oh, mute came on for some reason there. I do apologise.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, how far did we get? Did you hear me speak of this slide, the feature overview?
Yes, we lost you with the calendar.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. So yeah, so this is Logan's calendar in Outlook. Just so you can have an example. I can't demonstrate this. We're not allowed. We don't have the external links in our existing tenants. They're always disabled. But I can just show you what it looks like here. So yeah, this is Logan's Outlook calendar. After an integration's run, typically every 2 hours, we can see that she can see one of her direct reports, Betty Lou, has a time off stretching from Monday to Thursday, and she's seen that directly in, as I say, in her Outlook calendar. If we were to, and I'll show you this in a second, going as Betty Lou, she would see it in her own calendar, in her own language as well. So let me just quickly move forward. So if I were to click into that time off that was in Logan's calendar, one of her own time offs, you can see it shows her as busy. We've got this pre-formatted message here. This is actually the default one out of Workday, but again, we can put custom messages there if you prefer. And it's showing in her own time zone. And as I say, it's showing as busy because it's an event for herself. If she were to look at one of those events from Outlook for one of her direct reports, Betty Lou, it'll show her who it is and it's time off. Again, we've got this message here. We've got the dates and times that it's going to occur in Logan's time zone because she's looking at it. But also it shows up here that Logan is free because, again, this is not showing Betty Lou's availability. This is in Logan's calendar. So for Logan, we don't want that to block out her calendar in Outlook as showing as busy. Then if Betty, and here we're showing how this would look to Betty Lou if she was looking at her Outlook calendar. If she clicked into it and her preferred language is Korean, then all the details actually come out in Korean. And also, and it's a little small here, apologies, but the date and time here shows as starting at midday and ending at midday because it's in her time zone, which is different to Logan's time zone. So the information is automatically, displayed based on who's actually viewing it at the time. If you wanted to look into this further, it is quite a technical configuration. I would strongly recommend using your consulting resource separately to ensure you get this done quite as efficiently as possible, but also to make sure that that integration piece is picked up and fully understood. Additionally, just some further considerations here. Every 2 hours is the recommended integration schedule. Of course, you can change that, but that's what we advise. We also advise having this integration run with a lower priority than, for instance, things like payroll integrations, of course. And just to note that leave types and holiday calendars are not currently available here. It's just time offs and absence tables. And lastly, even after you've set this all up, it's worth noting, as it shows here, that individual users can choose just to opt out if they don't want to see these events in their Outlook or Google Calendar. And this is just from their preferences via the little picture with their icon top right of the screen. You go and choose your preferences, and this is one of those preferences. So we're not forcing that on people. To summarise, we can automatically send our approved time off and absence table events to Google or Outlook calendars. The configuration is mainly IT, and of course the actual integration is in Workday, and there are those choices that I already discussed about, which organisations you want to enable this for, and you want custom text and so on. But if we do nothing, of course, then we won't see anything. Those events won't go out to people's Google or Outlook calendars. Absence tooltips and in the absence and time calendar. So there's again some accessibility improvements and what they typically do improve accessibility with every release. As an overview, they're improving things for keyboard users, giving them access to information that was previously not available without being able to use a mouse. For example, the previously used title attributes, which are only available in calendars if you could use your mouse to hover over them. And also improvement has been made on performance, so now tooltips are very responsive compared to the previous sort of title attributes. I'll quickly show you this in the tenant. So in our tenant again. So if I go, I'll try and move around. Let's go and find Emma again. And look at her calendar. Obviously, I'm using my mouse right now. But once I'm in the calendar, I'll just sit my mouse here so you can see that now I'm just going to be using the keyboard. I can use the tab key to move around. This has been around for some time. And if I use the arrow keys to move around different dates in the calendar, and on any date where there is something I can focus on it using the tab, and you see it's almost instantaneous that I get this pop-up. And you'll also notice the contrast has been changed quite a lot, so now it's very clear. And also then one other enhancement, I'll just have to zoom my screen here for a moment to show you this. If I scroll up to the top of the screen and use my mouse just to show, you'll notice now that the tooltip is popping up below and now it's popping up above, so it's automatically assessing where there's space, whereas before those would literally disappear. So people with smaller screens could have difficulties, so that's improved as well. So in summary, tooltips are more accessible, and there's no real configuration required, it's automatically available. So the locale formatting for calendars is next. And again, automatically available. And basically, a user's locale is now displayed in a more consistent manner. So now Workday use the industry standard ICU4J library, which uses it's a bit technical this, but anyway, uses the CLDR, which is a CLDR, sorry, which is so the library is monitored and maintained by the Unicode consortium, and this will affect how we display date ranges, days of the week, month names, numbers, and currency, all based on each user's chosen locale. So just to highlight here one example of a date format that's changing, that would be Denmark. The key point, and as you can see, it's sort of changing from this, from with the dashes to with these, I don't know, whatever you call those marks. The key point, though, is that if you have any calculated fields or calculations or integrations that are looking for very specific text information, so it might be looking for specifically this kind of information, then those will need to be reviewed and updated. I've updated here, so again, you can download this presentation afterwards, but I've included here an Excel showing what all of these look like, and so you can open that up. Oh, I can't open it up in presentation mode, but you can double click that and open it up, and it lists them all there. It's something that testing is strongly advised for this. If you've got any calculations or integrations that are looking for very sort of specific formats of numbers or currencies or dates, etc. So there's a summary. Dates, times, numbers are all changing. They're formatted in calendars. They're going to be using the IC4UJ industry standard and open source library. There's no change to the functionality in the calendar itself, but again, if you've got calculations or integrations that are using these, then you should go and review and test those. And if you don't do anything, then it's going to happen anyway. You're still going to be using those new formattings. How are we doing? 8 minutes. 8 minutes and 20 pages. So we may not get through all this, but if we don't, then of course, you know, the presentation is available for download, and do reach out to us if you want to talk about any of the remaining items or anything included here separately, and then just reach out to us and we can arrange a call. So time off reports, there's a couple of new ones that we haven't yet mentioned. My team's time off, and workers for time off resubmission. These are mostly time tracking, so I won't go into too much detail, but they do have some time off touch points. So let's just quickly look at these. My team's time and time off provides per worker the amount of time off reported, whether it's absence or time tracking, the time type, the status, and some time tracking information. Basically, this is to allow managers and admins to see details of both absence and time tracking in a single report, which is something that we've had to build quite complex reports and workarounds to get to in the past. Also, it's a standard report, which means it's secured by access to its data source, which is all time off blocks and time off entries, and to its data source filter, time and time off secured by supervised organisation and its fields. But also, it means as a standard report, we can use our options here to copy it and add or subtract fields, which is quite nice. And then workers for time off for resubmission. Again, it provides a list of workers with time off that must be resubmitted due to time tracking requirements. And again, I won't get into the time tracking requirements too much, other than to say that if you've submitted absence in the absence module and in the time tracking module, and you change it in the absence module, you need to resubmit it in the time tracking as well. And here's a report just showing you, any of those that are needing to be resubmitted. Again, it's a standard report that's secured by its data source and data source filter and fields, but also we can copy it and make adjustments accordingly. So to summarise, two new reports, a new data source, new data source filter, and a new report field. And again, of course, if we do nothing, then we're not going to use those, but it's okay. We'll just sit there doing nothing. Step-based calculations, again, quite technical, used traditionally in payroll, but also in absence from the last release. It's automatically available. It's an absence administrator focused feature. No real effect on end users. So it's purely an improvement for building, as far as absence is concerned, for building time off calculations. It simply allows us to build calculations which pick up the values from a table or a numeric constant without having to nest into those values in our calculations. So again, these are really here for your latest consumption. I won't speak any more about configuring step-based calculations. Right now, they're from a previous release, and this change is purely a calc engine enhancement as far as absence is concerned. But again, if you feel any of your nested calculations in absence are causing performance issues, then the recommendation would be to try and build yourself some of these groups so you can reduce the steps in your nests and just go for one calculation that does all that logic for you in one go. And again, if you want to talk about that, if there's issues around performance for you, then just reach out to us or your support partner. I'm sure you'll get some great help there. Additionally, we've got two new advanced reports to make it easier to manage step-based calculations. So we've got the all step-based calculation condition groups and all step-based calculation conditions. Just simply listing which calculations we've got, their groups, and the conditions that you've got in your tenants, so where they're used and so on. I mentioned that we've got these two new data sources, so you can create your own custom reports based on step-based calculations and conditions and groups. and some new fields, and I've just listed those here with their business objects. So then other features quickly, if you've been loading balance overrides by batch ID using EIBs, we can now delete those in the similar sort of way. We can delete overrides balances by batch ID, and that has now become a job rather than a batch process. So we can view what's going on there in our background job monitor. This is a much sought after improvement, but now with leave validations, previously when you submitted a leave, if you broke one of the validations, the leave would get submitted into the system. The user would have to go back to their inbox and find the error and take action. But now Workday have moved that validation process earlier, so when you're in the calendar and trying to submit, the validation error will pop up immediately and the leave will not be submitted. So your users will know straight away that they've done something wrong with their leave and they can go and correct that accordingly. This works on correct absence, enter absence and request absence, and it's again automatically available. And just typically how this would look to a user, as I say, the usability is enhanced. We now also have this calendar interface display improvement. So where previously we would have multiple events on a day, it could be quite difficult to see those. Now, if you look in your calendars, you'll see this little sort of triangle here. If you click it, you're going to pop up and it shows you all the details that are going on for that particular day, which is a much nicer way to view that. We have some absence translations for absence administrators. So we have these 10 languages now that have been translated for absence admins. Again, Workday don't release exact information on that, but by all means, go and follow that link into the community and run in one of these languages and have a look at what that looks like for your absence admins if you're using these languages. And there's a new PEX card for absence management with, if you're using people experience. If you're not, then do speak to our people experience guys. I think it's where work is going. It's definitely something worth uptaking. But now you can see, you can allow users to see their upcoming approved time off for the next 30 days and for the team members. And you just configure that via the people experience homepage content task, like for all PEX things. But again, I'm not a PEX expert, so please reach out to the relevant person if you want to do that. Just to help basically make things easier for the users. And a technical thing here also, we now have web services available to pull from the tenant and to add to the tenant en masse advanced lookup tables using our calculations in absence. And then our roadmap, and I know we're over time, so apologies, Catherine, but just briefly, here's the roadmap. I could talk through these all with you, but I think we're out of time. So do, by all means, have a look at these. But some of these have been on the roadmap for some time, and some are quite new. But here's our roadmap. And again, just before you go, last message: do give us feedback. We look forward to that very much. If you have any questions, submit those. We'll come back to our email. And don't forget, we will be recording. We are recording this, and we'll share that out with any Q&A also after the event. And that's the end of absence. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ian. We actually could take a couple of questions. So the first one we have gotten is in the threshold setup, there were 2 supervisory organizations. If people are absent from one of them, does this stop people in the other one taking an absence?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. And the simple answer is yes. So, when we build these configurations for people, we can find that we end up with quite a few schedules built for different populations and so forth. And we really only group those together if we find that we've got exactly the same rules for different populations. So we can minimise the number of schedules we've got entirely. If we had a little more time, I could sort of give you a demonstration, but yes, the answer is yes, that will indeed. That affects every organisation you've included in that configuration piece.
Thank you. And then there was also a question about delete time-offs. So the roadmap showed delete time-offs. Would this remove a time-off instead of adding a request for -1 day to the person's calendar?
Let's have a look. Hold on. Excuse me. I'll go back. That was quick. Quick delete. Okay, yeah. So delete request. Yeah. So, and again, it's a roadmap item. So safe harbor here, but yes. So currently, when you submit a time off, if you then correct that time off, or you want to get rid of it, the actual way that works in Workday is if you've got a time off for Monday, a whole day, Tuesday a day, Wednesday a day, and I decide actually I didn't need to take the Wednesday, what Workday is, it submits a -1 day for that Wednesday. So when you look at the Workday history, you have +1 day for Monday, +1 day for Tuesday, +1 day for Wednesday, and -1 day for Wednesday, which again that's just how that's always worked, but it's not super helpful. Can be a little bit confusing to users, especially when there's a long history. And the roadmap item is literally to remove the time off event itself, or that for that day. So you wouldn't see a +1 and a -1 on that Wednesday. It would just be completely gone.
Okay, and we actually have one more question. You said that there are new languages for absence. What has now been translated?
That was, where are we, back here? Yeah, so, well, that's another good question. Unfortunately, it's not something that I can give you a perfect answer for. Workday don't deliver that kind of information out to the ecosystem when they make these translations. So if you look at this this link here, without the H, sorry, apologies, there's a missing letter there. But if you go there, you'll see which languages are coming or which have been translated and for which parts of the system and so on. But they don't go down into explaining which fields are being translated. So the only good way to do it, as I say, is if you have any users that run in any of these language, then you know, and are absence admins or configuring absence, then ask them to go in and run and see what's changed and see it. So unfortunately, there's no list out of Workday that we can deliver.
Okay, thank you, Ian.
All right. Anything else?
That was all of the questions we got.
All right.
Yes. So thank you, Ian, for your presentation.